Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Cyber Revolution podcast. Thanks for joining yet again. I'm Adam Hewitt, CEO of Cyber Revolution, and today I'm joined by a former student of ours, Brett. Brett, how you going?
Hey, Adam. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Now, we've got Brett on the podcast because he's recently landed himself a new role. He's actually fortunate enough to land himself a role towards the back end of 2024, which is kind of unique. A lot of our placement partners and companies typically wait to the new year to hire, but Brett took the opportunity with both hands, went through our job placement program, and landed a role at one of our placement partners, Vectra, 2 weeks before Christmas. And we're going to have a chat around that journey and how exactly he did that. Before we get into that, everyone, a bit of an overview of who this podcast is for. If you're listening to it for the first time, it really is for somebody who is interested in this thing called cybersecurity, not particularly, not only wanting to get a job in the industry, but just interested in general about what skills do you need to learn. We'd like to break down some of the common misconceptions about what a cybersecurity professional actually does and what you need to do in order to get your first job in cybersecurity. So at Cyber Revolution, that's what we specialize in. We help people land their first role in the industry. And the reason we've started this podcast and done close to 60 episodes now is to really break down some of the common misconceptions about the industry. So if that sounds interesting, then keep listening. All right, Brett, let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning. I've got some commonalities with your initial career that you started with. I was also a teacher, but tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and when you first started thinking about a career change into cybersecurity. What were you currently doing for work?
I was a teacher. I'd been a teacher for probably 13 years at that stage. I'd even through, I guess if I go back a little step, I actually spent a fair bit of time in my career days, I was in hospitality. And then when I was studying for teaching, I was in retail. So I guess my whole journey had been around people, and teaching was where I ended up. It was the end of 2022, and I decided that I was going to end of 2022, and I just got to the point where I was at work, and I just felt like I needed something different. Like things just in my gut, it just didn't feel right, and I wasn't sure what it was. But work was really, really flexible with me, and allowed me to take some time away from work to rediscover what it might be. And I guess I went on a bit of a journey of trying to discover who I was and what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to be. And I guess it ended up being I saw you guys on a Facebook ad. And prior to that, a colleague of mine had mentioned cybersecurity to me, probably going down sort of the TAFE path, and I wasn't ready for a full-time commitment in an establishment like going back to school. But then, I saw Cyber Revolution come up on a Facebook ad, and it sort of piqued my interest, and I thought, oh, actually, I remember that's what we were talking about. And I guess my first experience with Cyber Revolution was actually the podcasts, actually listening to other people's experiences.
Yep.
And I thought, there's a bit of my story in that. There's a bit of, like I had a feeling around, this seems like, there's an opportunity here for me to learn new things, because that's one thing that I love doing. But also, these are people that are in the same boat as me.
Yeah.
And I thought, why not give it a shot? And, I got in contact, and, through the process and doing a little bit more research, ended up starting my studies in cyber. So, I always had a sort of a passion for technology. So I guess, for me, going into into studies around cyber, it had piqued my interest already. So yeah, it was exciting when I made the decision to actually change, and then the rest is history, I guess, as they say.
We've come full circle. You've gone from the first experience with Cyber Revolution is listening to the podcast.
Yes.
We're on the podcast. Do you know roughly what that time length would be from when you first listened to an episode to when you now?
I reckon I would have first listened to an episode. It would have been around May or June would have been 2023.
Yep.
I reckon. And it was just great hearing other people's stories, like anything, like when you hear their stories. And then obviously now when you obviously invited me on to hear, it would have been like probably an 18-month, maybe close to 18 months. So, I'm happy to share my story if it helps someone else, make that decision to change careers, because I know what it's like when that feeling when you're somewhere where you probably don't really want to be, but having the courage to actually change is really, really hard. And I guess, being able to do that and learn new skills and then eventually get a job's been probably,
Yep.
It's been really good.
Good on you, man. And like I couldn't have said it better. Like everyone gets to that point. Not everyone. Some people are fortunate enough to have a long career. And 14 years in one industry is a long career, right? Especially with teaching. I know myself as a background as I'm a qualified teacher. I taught at high school for a couple of years. How demanding it can be, rewarding, but also demanding. And so 14 years is a long time to be able to have the courage to go, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. I need to change. A lot of people have those thoughts. It's then another completely different thing committing to that change and taking the leap of faith.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Really happy. We might have a quick chat around some of your mindset, your strategies of you actually took that leap. Actually, just quick, I'm interested to know what type of teacher you were. Were you at high school?
I was originally, I started as a PE teacher, but I ended up pivoting into design and technology. We had some openings at my work, and I upskilled myself in design and technology. So I did like a Cert 3 in cabinet making, and I was a maths teacher as well. So I taught at a middle school. Basically, we were year 7 to 9. I taught kids in their challenging years,
Yep. Yeah.
that early high school, I guess. So the design and technology stuff was really good because I sort of was still dealing, like we had digital technologies when the Australian curriculum came in. So that allowed me that's where I sort of felt that with cybersecurity, the techie sort of stuff, it was a pathway that I had some interest in.
Yep. Funnily enough, I majored in PE teaching and I minored in design and tech. Crazy.
I think there's a lot of PE teachers out there.
Yeah, never too many. Well, that's why I left the industry because there was not enough jobs, too many certifications, too many qualified people, not enough jobs. Kind of the opposite of cybersecurity, right? Not too many jobs, not enough qualified people in cyber. So if we're on that point, so 14 years in one industry, wanting to do something different, came across me on social media. Like, what was it that stood out to you to join Cyber Revolution? And maybe we can talk about some of those fears or doubts that you had before joining it and how you overcame them.
It was about flexibility of time, first and foremost, I think, with Cyber Revolution. Like I had, because I'd taken some time away from work, I had some time, and I was lucky in my situation that I was able to have that time. I know a lot of other people, if you're doing this while still working full time, it is a challenge. I guess the flexibility of time and to be able to do it in my own time. So whether it be, studying at nights or studying during the day, like I've got 2 boys at home. So it was, even school holidays time, it was challenging to keep up to date. Like I had to keep myself on track, I guess. So for me, that was the one thing, I guess, the flexibility of time. I think the other thing that really stood out for me was the idea that Cyber Revolution are connected to industry partners. And I know it's not a guarantee of a job, and that's, there's no guarantees for anything in life, but I guess the idea that there were opportunities that if they did come up, that Cyber Revolution were able to assist in any way of helping their students get jobs, that sort of appealed to me as well. And I know, finishing my studies and then going through the career exploration sessions with Hugo, like it was massive. It was massive for me in getting the first role, but that was probably the reason why I went down the path with Cyber Revolution to start with.
That really structured approach from training, also then getting you job ready, and then introductions to the placement partners. And let's have a chat about that because you have just landed your first role. Was it late December last year, 2024? And it was really, quite booked. You've done your studies. You went through, as you said, job ready program, resume, cover letter, job interview training, all of that stuff, because it can be intimidating.
LinkedIn, all the things that are needed. Yep.
Ticked every single box, and then introduced you to one of our placement partners, Vectra.
Yep.
Tell us about that moment when you landed your first role. What was that kind of feeling like to know, wow, I'm doing this?
The fun thing was that when I had the interview, I walked into the interview and I actually sat down and had the conversation. And an ex-student of Cyber Revolution was on that panel, and she'd been through the same, I guess, experience as me. But the thing was, I just felt comfortable with the people in front of me. Like it felt like I already knew them. So when I actually finally got the role, for me, it was probably a sense of pride. Like you put in, like this journey started, it was probably 18 months before that I decided to start. Like I'd finished my studies around 12 months time it took me. And then, like there was a period of looking and waiting for work, or not waiting for it, but looking for work. and then this opportunity came up with Vectra. So for me, it was really, first and foremost, it was a sense of pride that I'd been able to achieve that goal from starting the studies, going through all the stresses of the exams and all the stuff that goes with studying and learning new stuff, but to finally be given the opportunity by an organisation to say, hey, we want to bring you on board. We think that you've got the right stuff to that for our organisation. Yeah, I was over the moon. And it was probably the first realisation that, hey, this is actually real, because it was okay. I'm now not a teacher.
Yeah,
I'm now the cybersecurity expert.
Which is crazy.
Well, and I'm still learning. But yeah, that was the first realization that my next chapter is now beginning.
Yep. And you talk about a sense of pride. I've got a sense of pride here because it's pretty cool that we trained and placed Delaney. She was in the retail space into Vectra, and then now, placing yourself, and she's on the interview panel, a year or so later. That's pretty cool that a Cyber Revolution student has landed a job through being interviewed by a Cyber Revolution student that was in the same, in the same boat, the same situation.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of that. And so first, and well done on doing it, mate. You absolutely nailed the interview process from what I was told.
Yeah.
And so how that you've landed that role, and I know you've only been in it now for, a month or so, or even with the 2-week break in the middle as well. It may be too early to tell, but it may not be. Do you feel like you have kind of found yourself? You mentioned before you were looking for something. Do you feel like
I think, and even through the process of studying, like I still wasn't sure where I fitted into the cybersecurity world, I guess, because it's so broad.
Mm.
And for me, when the role came up and the realization that what skills do I have that I bring to this? Not only the skills that I learned, which is some of the technical skills and the understandings around cybersecurity, but what can I bring, and what do I bring from my previous careers, my previous experiences, and I guess the role that I've landed here as a cybersecurity consultant or associate cybersecurity consultant lets me, I think, bring all of that together. So and we're here with the consultants here. We're working with the PCI DSS, and it's a massive standard. My realization is, wow, I've got so much more to learn, which for me is I really enjoy that, because I've always been someone that's just enjoyed learning. So what I did learn through the studies has allowed me to sort of hit the ground running in a way, assist as much as I can. But yeah, I'm still learning in the role.
And just endless learning, right? And that's how that's exactly how the model that we've created is supposed to work. Your CompTIA certifications, they give you the basics, your core fundamentals of cyber. And they're almost like your ticket into getting a job interview. Cool, I've got the skills, I'm into this, I'm taking it seriously. And then from there, on the job learning, your learning curve is like a hockey stick growth, right? I guarantee you.
Absolutely. Oh,
For the next
I might say, like getting home from work, I guess, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted because I've actually it's a mental exhaustion, because I've been learning, and it's new stuff, nearly every day. So for me, it's a completely different environment to what I've been used to. But all the same, it's like I've really, really enjoyed it so far. So it's been really, really good.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. I think it's the number one trait that you can kind of identify whether someone's going to be a good fit for cyber or not, if they are someone that enjoys learning, like lifelong learning. So if you're out there and you're listening right now and you're like, well, is cybersecurity going to be for me? And you hate learning new skills, or you look at learning as a chore, then I don't want to put a red line through it, but probably not, right? So
it's definitely one of the skills, or one of those traits that you definitely need to have. I think in any industry we need to have it. Like I think you should be a lifelong learner regardless. That's my philosophy. But especially in IT, especially in cybersecurity, when things are moving really quickly, and you got to keep up. Learning is a big key to that.
So, coming from a teaching background, 14 years, deciding to change careers, like, what were the initial doubts going through your mind, especially then also now coming into a new career, learning these new skills, not having any IT skill set or background previously? You said that you interested in tech.
Yeah.
How did you overcome those doubts? How did you actually then
Oh,
take?
look, for me, first and foremost, like I was like my doubts were like, where do I fit in here? Where do I fit in? And it wasn't. I've always had an open mind. I think I've always had a pretty good growth mindset around learning and learning new things, of being adaptable and flexible. And I think they're key traits to have. But for me, it was I wasn't even go while doing the studies. I sort of didn't know where I actually fitted in this world, and it was probably as the studies started to roll on and get through the network plus, and then the security plus, and the cybersecurity analyst plus, and yet realize how it all fits together. You can start to get a picture of, I guess, where you fit in. But even when I'd finished, I was still a bit unsure. And for me, it was making sure that I realized what skills I brought to the table and where can I find that in this industry. And I guess being in a consultant role, and we're in sort of the GRC
Yep.
area.
Yep.
That for me as a starting point has been probably it's a good fit. But yeah, I guess my doubts were, even just, was I going to get a job? Like that was a real doubt in my mind. But it's about persistence, about keep on putting yourself out there. And like I think what the company that I'm working for now have done is, and what they do is they're willing to take on people who still have a lot to learn. And I think, like the entry level role, like finding entry level roles is hard enough as it is. And I think it's organizations like the one that I'm working for, Vectra, that, if there are more companies out there that were willing to take on people, I think, because there's a lot of demand out there for work.
Yeah.
I think it's just, giving people a shot, because,
Yeah.
everyone brings their own, skill set. And, if people could see that more,
Yeah.
I think then people would be, hopefully jumping on board a lot.
100%. It's about finding the right organizations that understand people like yourself. Yes, you're new to cybersecurity. You don't have any cybersecurity experience or, hands-on experience anyway, but you do have a wealth of other skills that you've built in your other.
That's exactly right.
That gives the employer confidence, because you're not just coming in super green into a professional setting. And that, as you said, you draw confidence on that. You go, wait, actually, can add some value here from day one because of your previous roles. So those transferable skills, they're just absolutely massive.
And that's where I guess where you guys come in. And it's, for the majority of your students would be people that are coming from other industries, or coming from, from other jobs or from other areas, and that bring a existing skill set. They've got the transferable skills, and, like I think what you guys do in helping people find where they're at and what they're good at, and then helping them with the studies. It's a pathway that, once you get to the end, like anything, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to, apply for those jobs.
And you mentioned it before. There's no guarantees in this world.
No.
Can't guarantee that anyone and everyone who decides to join, our program, as soon as you join, yes, you're guaranteed a course. But I tell you what, I can guarantee: if you do need to do something different and you don't do anything about it, I guarantee nothing will change.
That's exactly right.
Right? That's the guarantee.
That is the guarantee.
Don't do anything, nothing will change, right? And so that's the biggest thing, right? Once you've decided you want to do something, you then have to take the leap of faith and actually do it. And so, final question on that: someone that would be sitting on the fence, or was in your situation, and they may be letting some of those doubts and fears about whether they want to change careers or what's the industry for them. Well, any, I guess, tips, or maybe the top 3 tips of advice that would help them take that final leap of faith and commit?
Well, I think we sort of probably touched on a few of them. I think one thing for me is you have to be a learner. Like you have to be willing to learn and put yourself out there. Like that growth, I guess having a growth mindset is probably the one thing that I think will help you get through the whole journey. Because along the way, you're going to be challenged. There's going to be times when the study, like, even early on, like it was, I thought, wow, these concepts, like I'm never going to understand all this.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep going. So, because if you hit a hurdle and then you go, well, that's it, I'm done. Like, well, that's going to happen everywhere and anytime you try to do something new. So for me, a growth mindset, like know who you are and what you want to be and embrace what your transferable skills are. I think the industry has roles for a lot of people. Yeah, there are technical roles. Yeah, there are, the governance, people sort of facing roles. What do you want to do? Like, for anyone out there, like research what the different types of roles are in the industry and see where your skills fit in. And, the studies will help you gain, I guess, the foundational knowledge, but you yourself knowing, well, within yourself, it's like, oh, well, what am I good at? What can I bring to the table? So, your transferable skills. And for me, the last one is just do it. Like so many people, and we said it before, like so many, if you don't do anything, nothing will change.
Yep.
If this is an area that you feel like you can see yourself going down this path, get started. Like the first step is the hardest, like making that decision to actually do it is the hardest. And then once it's going, and if you can keep that mindset of, yeah, I'm going to have hurdles, but I've got to keep going, like,
Yeah.
Like you say this, the saying is the sky's the limit. But I think at the end of the day, like you don't know everything. You don't have to know everything. You just have to get started.
Yep.
I think that to me is,
It's such good advice. And the reason I had a reaction, because I knew you were going to say just do it then, because the majority of our students do. And I also just did a podcast before this. We recorded it. It'll come out before this podcast does, with a lovely woman by the name of Joan, who had just gone through the same process, trained and replaced her as well. She said the exact same three things. She said, do your research, obviously know who you are, know it's the right industry for you, lean into the learning and learn the right skills.
Yeah.
And then she said, just do it, right? And I think 80% of our students finish on that third one. It's like, we're in a Nike commercial sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and I spent a considerable time in my life telling younger people to embrace learning and to not be afraid of making mistakes and that whole fear of failure. Yeah, like I said, there's going to be times where you're going to struggle, but you never know if you never go, and nothing will change if you do nothing. So, I say if this is an area that interests you, just do it. Just get started. It's the best way.
Awesome, mate. And good on you it's one thing telling people and giving that advice out to people. Another thing actually then doing it yourself and having the courage to do it, mate. So well done on doing it. Congratulations on your new role, your new career.
Thanks.
I'm pumped for you, and I can't wait to have you back on the podcast if you're kind enough to come back on maybe in 12 months' time. And
Absolutely.
we'll have a whole new episode of talking about all the new skills that you've learned. I look forward to it, mate.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, Brett. And everyone for listening, if you did get some value out of this episode, whether you're a Cyber Revolution student or not, please like, comment. You can share this, subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. I think we're doing some amazing things here at Cyber Revolution, and it's stories like this that, as you said, really help people understand more about this industry and how they can land their first job. If you want to know more about, how we might be able to help on our job placement program, all you have to do is head to cyberrevolution.com.au and leave your details there, and someone from the team will be in touch. Thanks for listening.